great stories have a few things in common. There are characters, there's a setting, a problem manifests itself, and then everyone works towards a solution. Maybe there's a few people who are making the problem worse and not helping. If you have a great story, then you have lots of exciting things that are happening that are driving the plot forward and keeps the reader reading on, flipping page after page. They feel excited with the characters. They feel sad with the characters. They move along. That would be a fantastic story. One of the things great writers do to help their readers really visualize the action and really feel how the characters are feeling is dialogue. Dialogue is when characters are actually talking to each other. You can have it where two people are talking, you can have 4 or 5 people all talking together, and you can have one person talking out loud to themselves. And I'm going to show you how to do dialogue in your writing. I'm going to give you some ideas to add some dialogue in your writing. In my story about the police officer in that car crash, there are lots of opportunities for lots of different conversations. I want you to take a look at my second draft of writing. I want you to read it to yourself and pay close attention to where is the dialogue and how did I use it. Go ahead and read silently to yourself. For my second draft, that was a pretty good start for dialogue. It wasn't perfect, but it's a pretty good start on the dialogue. So I need to ask myself, and you need to ask yourself, where else in my story can I add some people talking to each other? Now, in my story about the police officer, I obviously have the police officer talking to the victim. That's my first thing of dialogue. But I could add some more dialogue where the person who called the police is talking to the person in the car. The entire direction of your story can change based on what he says to the person in the car. I could have bystanders each whispering to each other. That would be very exciting. I could also have the officer go on the walkie-talkie and have some dialogue with another officer. I'm going to need backup right away. I don't know what's happening. Send the ambulance to 34th Street. Right? All that dialogue kind of can move the story along. I could also have the officer, when this is all over and all done with, the officer can call a friend of hers up and say, oh man, you need to come over. You need to hear what happened today. And then it kind of gives a different spin on the story because now you see the officer as not just, the hero of the story, but you kind of see the police officer as just a regular person trying to do their job. Maybe the police officer is instead just going to talk to their son at home, ask him how they did on their homework that day, which again would change the entire tone of my story. I could have the police officer's son talking to another kid. The possibilities are endless. But when you're adding dialogue, there are a few rules that you need to follow. The first rule is that each person gets their own paragraph, even if they only have one line. And I'm going to show you what I mean in a minute. The words that come out of your character's mouth have quotation marks around the words and usually start with a capital letter. The narration before they start speaking often has a comma. That's the basic rules for dialogue, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that. Sometimes, though, people like to have dialogue inside their own head. So the words that a character is thinking gets italics. So kind of like this. Words I say are in quotations. Words I think are slanted in italics. So it would look something like this. Before I could deliver first aid, I commanded, "Sir, you need to stay calm." The words that came out of that police officer's mouth has quotations. These are the quotation marks. In fact, if you want to remember quotation marks is 2 lips talking, that's a great way to remember what quotation marks look like. The quotation usually starts with a capital letter. In this case, the person started talking and they said, "Sir," which is capitalized. And then when I ended the narration, I said, "Before I could deliver the first aid, I commanded," and there's a comma right there, and then the dialogue starts. So here's an example at the end of my story. how I added dialogue. Now, I want you to read this part to yourself. This is when the problem has already been solved, the car crash is done, everyone is safe, the police officer is back home, and she walks in the door of her own house. So read this silently to yourself about the dialogue at the end of the story. So now let's take a look at how I use this dialogue here. When I first started the dialogue, I indented and started a new paragraph because a new person was talking. I don't care what happened right before this. As soon as a character opens their mouth, it's a new paragraph. And then I added quotes. And when the character stopped talking, I closed the quotes. And then now I have this narration after the quotation. When I look at this sentence here, that bad, huh? I know it's a new person talking because it's a new paragraph. And then another person is talking. So it's not the same person anymore. Where's Alejandro? If I look at just the dialogue, the first one says, yeah, hun, it was a really rough night. Then the next person says, that bad, huh? And then it goes back to, where's Alejandro? Now, if I had some more narration here, maybe I could figure out who's saying what. But right now, I want you to understand the point that whenever a new person opens their mouth, they get a paragraph all by themselves, even if it's just one line. Where it says, that bad, huh? They said one line, and that's it. So then the new paragraph starts with, where's Alejandro? When I look at the next paragraph, now I have more of a narration here. And then this narration in this last paragraph is all about the police officer's thoughts on being a mom. And because it's the police officer's thoughts on being a mom, when she starts talking, since it's the same person, the quote just goes in that paragraph. And then I end the quotes again. So I don't have to put a quote at the beginning of a paragraph. I could put it anywhere in the paragraph I want, but one person gets one paragraph. All right, so let's take a closer look then at this part here. I should add a little bit narration here so my reader knows who's talking. So I should just add, said her husband, and she asked. That makes it a little easier to follow along, don't you think? So your task today is to improve your writing by adding some dialogue. To make your story great, you're going to have to go back and add realistic dialogue between the characters. Maybe you're going to give some characters different voices. Maybe one character is going to have an accent, or maybe one character is going to sound very educated. You're going to change the words so they say indubitably or things like that. Maybe another character is going to speak in slang, so you know that they're like the cool character, the younger character. The possibilities for dialogue are endless. But today, I want you to look at the narrative that you already wrote. I want you to reread it and think about who could be talking here. And then move on to the next paragraph. Who could be talking here? I want you to find at least 3 places that you can have some people talking to each other. I want you to add dialogue with proper quotations in 3 different scenes. That is your assignment for the day. Good luck with that, and I can't wait to read your new edited narratives.